Good evening, everybody. I'm Fictional Crystals, and Honerva has gotten the Alteans. Season 7 ended on a cliffhanger. Turns out there was an Altean who was piloting the Komar mecha. It's not too hard to figure out where this Altean came from. There was only one place in the reality where a mass amount of Alteans were staying, the colony. We found out that something strange happened to the colony this season. Crowley and Keith gave Colovan the location of the Altean colony. The Blades went to check there but found nothing. Just an empty facility. That means the colony itself was gone, which is not too hard to do since the Altean colony is a simulator. A simulation can easily be turned off. What the real question is what happened to the Alteans in there, and the ones in the pods in the moon base? Another thing we learned this season is that Honerva has disappeared too. She abandoned her druids and went off who knows where. Actually, it's pretty obvious where she went. For several seasons, Haggar was able to spy through Kuron. She was able to see what he saw and hear what he heard. Haggar was still spying through Kuron when Romelle arrived from the colony in Season 6. She heard the entire story. Between Season 6 and 7, Honerva took herself to the Altean colony. She shut down the simulator and stole the Alteans away. One of these Alteans she put in a mecha and used to fight Voltron. This Altean's quintessence was being used to power the mecha. She was like a battery for it. Yet she didn't look drained like these Alteans were. Her body was perfectly intact at the end of the season. She was just unconscious. Her face was twitching. It might not have even been a lack of quintessence that knocked her out. The fight with Voltron and Atlas could have easily done the same. I mean, that fight even put the paladins in hospital. The reason she wasn't depleted of quintessence and dead because of using the mecha was because she stole quintessence from other sources, leaving her opponents powerless and making her stronger.
I can use the Komar to draw the quintessence directly from Voltron, rendering him lifeless.
To recharge herself with quintessence and in turn the mecha, she had to siphon off the quintessence she needed from Voltron and Atlas. Basically, her quintessence had a connection to the mecha and she was powering it. Once she was out of quintessence, she had to get a quintessence source from somewhere else. It's very likely Honerva built this mecha. She was the one who came up with the Komar in the first place. The Komar could only be activated with an Altean's help. The mecha had an ability reminiscent to what Zarkon could do earlier on. Haggar gave Zarkon this ability. Without her powers amplifying his quintessence, he wouldn't have been able to do this. Honerva has Altean alchemy knowledge from Oriond. Alpha's knowledge from Oriond helped to make the lions. Alora's knowledge from Oriond helped to make the syncline ships. But the ships need pilots. Even each of the Robies Haggar has created before have required some kind of soul inside them piloting them. Voltron's paladins don't need to be inside the lines to pilot them, but they must still have a connection with them. Honerva didn't simply suck the quintessence out of the Altean and then use it for her mecha. She had the actual Altean's full body intact, rather than her quintessence first being sucked from her and then used to power a mecha, like it was for Lotor's syncline ships. When he tried to take these syncline ships into the rift, he didn't have an Altean there powering them, just quintessence he had already gotten out of them, meaning that this Altean was piloting the mecha. The Komar mecha's attacks were too precise to not have someone controlling it. It wasn't just her quintessence that was doing all of this attacking. So why was she fighting them? I can think of a few reasons. Obviously she was doing Honerva's bidding. If it was out of fear, Honerva could have easily created threats. Said she would have ended up like these Alteans otherwise, or her family/friends would end up like that. Or Honerva literally had her under her control. And the alternate reality Alteans taking away people's free will might have alluded to this. In the past, Haggar has controlled plenty of people. Taking over the mind of one more isn't a big deal for her. Honerva might have found an Altean with powerful magical potential. She forced the Altean into the mecha. That explained why the Altean is so well strapped down. In this case, the Altean simply was a battery for the mecha, and Honerva was the pilot from another location. Honerva was the one getting it to do all this fancy magical stuff. Honerva didn't want to use herself as a power source, because she knew the amount of quintessence she'd exert if she did that. Plus, as I said before, Honerva's a puppet master. She doesn't take the spotlight. Not to mention this possible line of foreshadowing in Monsters and Mana.
I've already siphoned off their life force.
But what if this was voluntary? Honerva has always been a master manipulator. She's a better manipulator than her son Lotor. She's had many puppets in the past. Honerva has always been in the background of things, like a puppeteer. She's used others as her pawns in the front lines. They get taken down while she remains hidden. Think about this. Lotor abandoned the Altean colony. Voltron never came to save them. Both Lotor and Voltron poofed out of existence for several years. Lotor not returning returning must have panicked the Alteans. They didn't know anything about Lotor's schemes or the outside universe, just what Lotor had told them. With him not returning, they must have thought the worst. The Galra had gotten him. To them, he was an Altean who knew about the outside world. They needed an Altean with the same knowledge as him to lead them. That's when Honerva swooped in. She told them her own twisted story of what happened in the universe. She said that Lotor and Voltron had failed them. She revealed to them the quintessence drained Alteans in the pods, and fed them lies about how she was going to make things right. Like I mentioned earlier, Honerva has special abilities she unlocked in Orion. She's an Altean alchemist just as strong as Alora. Alora has the ability to bring people back to life. She does this by restoring their quintessence, giving them some of her own. She did this as early as the Balmira arc in Season 1. Al4 had this power too. Altean alchemy started with the life-givers of Orion, and quintessence is life itself.
Quintessence is life.
We can presume that Honerva has similar, if not the same abilities as Alora and Al4. She can replenish quintessence too. Since the thing that was wrong with these Alteans was that their quintessence was drained from them, theoretically, she could have restored it. I believe that's what Lotor was planning on doing with some of the rift quintessence he got too.
We would only extract as much quintessence as could be replenished.
Imagine these Alteans' reactions to seeing her give life to these other Alteans. To them, she wasn't Zarkon's evil witch Haggar. She was Honerva, the person Lotor constantly praised and looked up to. With Lotor and Voltron gone, they decided to do her bidding. She trained them up, showed them how to use their powers, leading to this Altean piloting the Komar mecha. Voltron Legendary Defender takes elements from the show it's a reboot of, Voltron Defender of the Universe. To avoid confusion, I'll just use the current character names, places, and species while talking about 80s Voltron. In Defender of the Universe, Altea had a sister planet. It was called Pollux, and a bunch of people that descended from Altea lived there.
If the people from planet Eris fight against the people from planet Pollux, they're really fighting against their own relatives.
Romelle and Bandor lived there. For a short while, the people of Pollux sided with the Galra. Bandor was always more trusting of the Galra.
Lotor promised me after Avok gets rid of Voltron, I can have my own castle.
You can't believe everything Lotor says.
Romelle was more uncertain. Bandor and Romelle's older brother Avok ended up getting voluntarily turned into a robeast. By Haggar, no less.
Because Avok volunteered to become a robeast, Haggar found him to be a very willing subject.
He fought Voltron in this form. He was Haggar's greatest achievement at that time. It seems like Avok, Romelle, and Bandor's brother ended up dying after that. What happened then can translate into now.
An Altean.
It kind of sounds like the Altean plotline in Legendary Defender. The planet the Altean colony is located on is Pollux. The Alteans that live there thought Lotor was the good guy. Bandor trusted Lotor more than Romelle did. He was so eager to go to the supposed second colony. Romelle's brother died, except this time it was Bandor instead of Avok. A robot with an Altean pilot went to attack Voltron. The mecha overpowered them.
That robeast has too much power!
One of Honerva's greatest creations, no doubt.
Which Haggar says the robeast she created from your son is her greatest achievement.
In the robeast situation, this Altean takes the spot of Avok. Avok was the strongest warrior in the kingdom. He wanted to be turned into a robeast. If this Altean was the one making the mecha do all of this stuff, instead of just Honerva, she must have extremely powerful abilities. Maybe she wanted to do this too. She was naive about the situation. Same as the Alteans that were so eager to go to the second colony. But what if these colony Alteans aren't the only ones that will be affected by Honerva? She can get to Alora, Kuron, and Romelle as well. Kuron doesn't want Alora hurt, which is how Honerva can get to him. Alora might try reasoning with her. She could manipulate Alora this way. Or Alora falls for her promises of a new Altea. The alternate reality Alteans got to her by appealing to her sense of home. The more Lotor showed respect for Altean culture, the more she fell for him by using the Alteans against her. Honerva will severely harm the Alteans if Alora doesn't do what she wants. This is also how Romelle can be manipulated. She knew the Alteans in the colony. She grew up there. Her friends and family were all from there. She doesn't want to see any more Alteans die like her brother did. Honerva could even tease her with a promise of bringing her family back to life. In 80s Voltron, Haggar used Romelle more than once. She was bait. Granted, Romelle didn't want to be used for these purposes. She was on Voltron's side. When Kolavan was talking about the Altean colony being empty, Romelle was at the back in the shadows behind every everyone else. She was framed almost the same way Lotor was in the Season 5 final. He was at the back in the shadows behind Allura, and we know how that turned out. I'm quite sure things will turn out okay for Allura, Romelle, and Kuron in the end. Allura and Kuron are main characters, and Romelle in Season 7 was getting established as a main cast member as well, though that doesn't mean they're not going to experience more bumps in the way before their happy endings. Anyway, Honerva's back at her old tricks, even though she's not in the spotlight. Also, thanks for watching, and rapids are.
Altean? Have Altean?
An Altean.
An Altean?